Welcome back to the deep dive. It's January 22nd, 2025, the day after President Trump's inauguration. And wow, the news is already crazy. We've got two big stories today that we're going to deep dive into.
Yeah, it is kind of interesting how these two stories, while they seem totally different, they both kind of show the influence of powerful people and what can happen because of the things they do.
That's true. Okay, so first, we've got Elon Musk. He's at the inauguration rally, and he does this thing, this gesture, and it's causing a lot of talk. Some are saying it looks like, a Nazi salute, and it's really set people off.
Yeah, people are saying it looks like the Sieg Heil salute, putting his right hand on his heart, then raising it palm down. Historians who study Nazism are they're really against it. They see it as him, like, purposely referencing a really dark part of history.
It's definitely a gesture with a lot of history behind it. And it's even more controversial because of some of the things Musk has said about politics before.
Exactly. Musk has said he supports President Trump. And he's even said he supports, like, far-right parties, like the AfD in Germany and Reform UK.
So people are wondering, did he do this on purpose?
Well, there are a lot of opinions about that. Some historians, like Claire Aubin and Ruth Ben-Ghiat, they think he definitely meant it as a Nazi symbol. They point to his political views and how he kind of likes to stir things up.
Yeah.
As proof.
But Musk says he didn't mean anything Nazi by it. He says the accusations are just a smear campaign.
Right. And some people are willing to give him the benefit of the doubt, like the Anti-Defamation League. They know the gesture looks like the Sieg Heil salute, but they also say it could have been, an awkward mistake, maybe because of his Asperger's, which he announced back in 2021.
And for those who don't know, Asperger's is a type of autism that can sometimes make social interactions hard and make it difficult to understand, like body language.
Right, and that's why some people don't think Musk was trying to be mean or anything.
So we've got these different opinions, from it being a Nazi symbol to just a social blunder. How about people at the rally? Were they just as divided?
It's kind of like a mini version of how divided our politics are. You've got Democratic representatives like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who said it was really bad and dangerous. And then you've got people who were defending Musk, even saying it was a joke. One guy, Brandon Galembos, even said, people need to chill out. It's just Elon being Elon.
Shows you how divided things are. Makes you think, what does this mean for Musk and his companies? Could this actually affect them in the long run?
It's hard to say for sure, but it could hurt his image. And that could hurt the image of Tesla and SpaceX and X. It also makes people think about the political views of tech leaders, which could mean they get more attention and scrutiny in the future.
And we should mention that, some far-right people have actually celebrated what Musk did, which makes it harder to say it was just an innocent mistake.
Yeah, for sure. It's complicated with a lot of different angles. It'll be interesting to see what happens next.
Okay, let's move on to our second story. This one's a bit of a mystery. Some reports are saying that President Trump pardoned Ross Ulbricht, the guy who founded the Silk Road Marketplace. But then other reports are denying it. What's going on here?
Well, nobody really knows for sure. Trump hasn't said anything officially, and neither has the government. So we don't really know what's happening with Ulbricht.
For those who need a refresher, Silk Road was this online black market that ran from 2011 to 2013. It was on the dark web, which is like a hidden part of the internet. And it was known for selling illegal drugs and stuff, using Bitcoin, the digital currency.
Right. And Ulbricht, he was going by Dread Pirate Roberts. He was the brains behind it all. He got arrested in 2013. And then in 2015, he was sentenced to life in prison, no parole, all for creating and running Silk Road.
And it was huge, right? Like billions of dollars in transactions.
Yeah, they think it was about $1.2 billion in sales, with more than 146,000 buyers and almost 4,000 sellers. It was a big deal because of how big it was and because they used Bitcoin to pay for everything.
So with all this back and forth, why is there so much confusion about the pardon?
Well, there were already reports back in 2020 that Trump might pardon Ulbricht. Libertarian groups were pushing for it. They thought his sentence was too harsh.
So it's been on people's minds. But since Trump hasn't actually said anything, it's all just guesswork right now. Makes you wonder, what are the arguments for and against the pardon?
There are strong opinions on both sides. People who support Ulbricht say his sentence was way too much for what he did. They think he's a smart guy, and that if he got another chance, he could do good things for society.
And what about the people who are against it? What are they worried about?
They say the crimes that happened on Silk Road were really serious. They think a pardon would send the wrong message, like it's okay to do illegal things online.
It's complicated.
Yeah.
It brings up questions about justice, accountability, and how technology fits into all of this. I want to hear more about what could happen if he is pardoned, both for Ulbricht and for the rest of us.
Well, that's what we'll be talking about next. We'll look at how it could affect dark web prosecutions, the future of cryptocurrency regulation, and the whole debate about criminal justice reform. You know, it's kind of crazy to think about how both these stories, even though they seem so different, they both kind of raise these questions about what people do, how it affects everyone else, especially when it's people like Musk with his huge platform, or legal cases like Ulbricht's that changed things.
Yeah, that's a good point. It makes you think about how much power individuals have to shape the conversation, whether it's through something like a gesture at a rally or by creating something like Silk Road. That really challenges how we think about business and law enforcement.
Exactly. Musk, with all his followers online and him leading Tesla and SpaceX, he has a lot of influence. Just one thing he does, even if he didn't mean anything by it, it can start a huge debate and have real effects on his companies and his reputation.
And with Ulbricht, even though he's been in prison for years, this whole pardon thing brings up all these questions again. About the justice system, about online spaces, and about how we define what's okay and not okay to do online.
It really shows how much impact individual choices can have, whether they're made in some tech company's office or on the dark web.
So let's dig a little deeper into what all this means. First, with Musk in that gesture, do you think this whole thing could actually change how tech leaders get involved in politics?
I think it could. We might see tech CEOs be more careful about sharing their political views, especially since people can get so upset, and it could hurt their companies.
But couldn't it also make some tech leaders even more outspoken, especially the ones who agree with Musk, or the ones who like to challenge the rules?
That's possible too. Musk seems to kind of like the controversy, and this might make him and others like him even more sure of their beliefs, even if it divides people even more.
What about the government and regulations? Could this lead to them looking more closely at the tech industry, especially when it comes to stuff like political influence and the spread of harmful content?
It's definitely something lawmakers are thinking about. We're already seeing people asking tech companies to be more open about their political donations, their lobbying, and those algorithms they use that kind of shape what we see online. This whole Musk thing could make those calls for transparency even louder, maybe leading to new regulations, antitrust actions, or just more pressure from the public for tech companies to take more responsibility for what's shared on their platforms.
It's crazy how one gesture could have such big consequences.
It shows how powerful symbols can be and how fast information and misinformation can spread online.
Okay, let's switch gears to this possible pardon for Ross Ulbricht. I'm curious what you think about how this could affect cybercrime and law enforcement.
A pardon for Ulbricht would definitely send a message. It's hard to say if it would be a good message or a bad one. On the one hand, it could be seen as being lenient, recognizing that even people who've done bad things deserve a second chance.
But it could also encourage other people on the dark web, right? Would they feel like they can get away with more, believing they won't face serious consequences?
It's possible. It could make illegal activity online increase, because criminals might feel more confident that they can avoid getting caught. It could also make it harder to prosecute cybercrimes in the future.
What about the cryptocurrency market? Silk Road was one of the first to use Bitcoin for illegal things. If Ulbricht gets pardoned, could that complicate the whole debate about how to regulate cryptocurrencies?
Totally. If Ulbricht gets pardoned, some people might think it means the government is okay with using cryptocurrencies for illegal things, even if that's not what they meant. This could lead to people wanting stricter rules for Bitcoin and other digital currencies.
So basically a bunch of unintended consequences.
It's a complicated issue with a lot of moving parts. It's really hard to say for sure what'll happen in the long run.
It feels like both these stories, even though they're about different things, they both point to this bigger issue, this struggle to balance individual freedoms with what's good for society. In a world where technology is changing everything so fast, and we're all so connected.
You're exactly right. It's like we're in uncharted territory. Technology is growing exponentially. Our ideas about power and influence are getting shaken up, and we're constantly having to rethink the rules, both online and offline.
It's like we're writing the rule book for the digital age as we go along. And every new event, every controversy adds a new chapter or changes an old one.
And the choices we make now as individuals and as a society will have a huge impact on the future.
What do you think our listeners should keep in mind as they try to understand all of this and make sense of these issues that are always changing?
I think it comes down to a few things. staying informed, thinking critically about the information we get, be willing to question our own beliefs, and realizing that there usually aren't easy answers to these problems.
And maybe most importantly, staying open to different points of view, even ones we disagree with, and talking to each other respectfully, even when it's tough.
That's so important. These aren't just abstract ideas. They have real consequences for all of us.
I think you've given our listeners a lot to think about. What are your thoughts on what might happen next? What could all of this mean for the future?
It's like we're at this fork in the road. And each of these stories, they kind of show us different ways things could go. Like with Musk, if his gesture makes people start talking more about, what tech leaders are responsible for and how much influence they have, it could lead to more transparency. Maybe they'll be held more accountable.
Right. It could be like this wake-up call.
Huh.
We might see tech companies changing how they deal with politics. Maybe they'll start thinking more about ethics and be more willing to address, concerns about bias and misinformation.
Yeah.
And the potential for things to get out of hand.
Yeah, and if people keep demanding more accountability from these companies, it could lead to better regulations, ones that protect people but still let companies innovate and, speak their minds.
But what if it goes the other way? What if, instead of being more careful, some tech leaders get even more dug in with their political views and use their platforms to push stuff that divides people even more and makes the internet even more of a mess?
That's a real danger, and it shows how important it is to be, media literate. And to think critically. We got to be able to look at information from different places, figure out if it's biased, and have real conversations about these complicated issues.
Now, thinking about Ulbricht, you think it could change how we think about crime and punishment online? Like, in the long term?
It's hard to say for sure, but it could definitely bring back those debates about why we put people in prison, whether our justice system actually works, and how we balance giving people second chances with holding them accountable.
Especially with cybercrime, where the laws aren't always clear and it crosses borders all the time.
Exactly. A pardon for Ulbricht could make people start calling for changes to the justice system, maybe looking at different ways to punish people, like restorative justice or community-based sentencing.
It could also make us have deeper conversations about how technology plays a role in both, making crime easier.
And fighting it, for sure. It could push us to improve cybersecurity and digital forensics, so law enforcement can keep up with how cyber criminals are changing their tactics. It could also lead to more creative ways to prevent online crime, focusing on education, awareness, and, getting the public and private sectors to work together.
So it seems like we're ending this deep dive with more questions than answers. But maybe that's the whole point. These stories aren't just about these specific events. They're about the bigger picture, the things that are shaping our world, and the challenges we face as we try to figure out this new territory.
I think you put it perfectly. These stories are like invitations to really think about these complicated issues, to question what we think we know, and to be a part of building the future we want.
A future where technology keeps changing at an amazing speed, and the lines between the real world and the digital world get even blurrier. And a future where individuals, whether they're super rich tech guys or anonymous coders, have the power to make choices that affect everyone.
And it's up to all of us, not just the experts or the people making the laws, to stay informed, think critically, and be a part of the conversation about how we deal with all this change.
Well, listeners, that's the end of our deep dive. We hope you found it insightful and got you thinking. Don't forget, the news never stops, and neither should our curiosity. Stay engaged, stay informed, and join us next time for another deep dive into the stories that matter.